What's going on, guys? Kai here. Today we're talking about my PvP tier list for fairies in the month of February. Like I said earlier in the week, everyone voted on my Discord, and what won is updated tier lists for this month. I've added everything that has been added, including right here, Blue Rose, which we will talk about. So starting in the top, how I did this was they're not in order from S1 to S2, S3, S4, but they're by element, which I think is the best way to do it in my opinion. As you can see, everything that's first on the list is holy. Then then I have fire, water, earth, and wind. So first we have Sakura and Milim. These are, if I was going to put rankings, these would be 1A, 1B. So Sakura, Pierce, and then obviously the the stun, just bunch of Pierce, bunch of damage, and stops them from moving. The only thing that makes it 1A and 1B, you want her, definitely, but Milim, instant cast, they can't root, so immediately they can't move, regardless of if they know when you're going to press the button, they can pre-dodge it. But you also have in top league where you can only use passives when you swap 2 Milims every 30 seconds, does a big AoE, huge radius, takes up half the map of top league, and does okay damage, and then also slows, which is very, very important. Then into the 2 fire up here, Winter Cherry and Anathria. So Winter Cherry effect isn't really that great for PvP, but she's up here because of her passive. That acts as a secondary rigidity and can actually stack well with rigidity because it just gives you those stats. Then we go into Anathria. In game modes where you're able to cast fairy skills, Anathria reduces healing and does execute damage, very similar to Slaughter and Holy Echo. Then for the water, we have Ikoria and Blue Rose. Blue Rose is very, very quickly for teams that are able to play water. It's doing a lot in PvP and PvE, as we'll see tomorrow. So for PvP, its passive is giving you damage amp, damage reduction. In game modes where you're able to use the skill, it's a very good swap class because you can use this to soften up people if you're weaker and let your team kill them, or you can use your water team, Blue Rose, that does more damage at their higher HP, then swap to fire with Slaughter or Holy with Slaughter, which will do damage when they're lower, but with that Blue Rose cast, they should now be lower, right? The one Earth that made it up here is Foxglove, the passive giving you crit as well as CC reduction is very, very powerful. And then Eldawise made it up here. Just Wind kind of has problems in some PvP. The main thing that brings it down is the top league where you can't cast. If we were able to cast, then we would have 3 up here and the A's right here. So to make it clear, they're kind of ranked not across each other, but across their element. So these are the top holies. These are the second best holies. These are the best fire. These are the next best fire. That's kind of how we're doing this. A, we have Licorice and Mistletoe. So they're both here for similar reasons. Mistletoe has the basic that heals you. That's nice. But both of them do good AoE type things. Licorice, press the button, she summons herself, picks a target, and then disappears and does the entangle and then the vine whip. And the base numbers look very low for damage, but they're surprisingly high when you hit with everything. Mistletoe is going to be very similar to Diablo or Rose in the fact that they put a barrier on the thing. Sorry, very similar to Diablo specifically, because you put a barrier on, and then if they try to dash through it, they get stunned. What's very important here, and is a differentiating factor, is even if they use a dodge to get through it, it specifically says ignores invulnerability. So if they use a dodge to get through, they'll still take the effect. The only fire that gets A here is Ixoria, due to the huge damage amp you get from this. You can also, if you really want to, do something like Gladiator Dragon Lancer, and then use Ixoria as a damage amp and a heal, because it makes you lose current HP and you heal max HP, very similar to Gladiator. I would ideally like you to use something like Water or Earth instead, but this is an option for a more offensive slanted. Lavender, for the game mode you're able to cast him, you could argue could be higher, but I have him down here because I believe when we talk about top league, that's a notch against him. Primrose, very nice to see a Gen 1 fairy up here. Does good damage, can be a little inconsistent for actually hitting the target and also giving you damage reduction, which is very powerful. Hyrcanth right here, good for the cooldown reduction, powerful unit when you're able to cast it. Balloon Flower, when you get her to higher stars, she will also do defense down on the targets in the circle. So that is very, very powerful, especially in group combat like Guild War. Bees, Rimuru, and Laurel. Laurel is only this high because he does great initial burst. He kind of effect doesn't really matter. I've had a question recently. I forget the name of the generation, but it increases the damage of your fairies, but increases the cooldown. And this is one of the fairies that I would say is absolutely great with that, because you're not really looking to use his side effects. You're just trying to use the damage. Rimuru right here, I think B is actually a very good spot for Rimuru, because it's a very niche type character, but it can do powerful things. Get rid of speed ups, get rid of some important stats, and then give you some bonuses. The only downside is, yes, it does it on attack, but how often are your fairies auto attacking? And that's kind of a weird thing with the game in itself. Fire, the cutest couple in the game right here, Diablo and Rose. Two sides of a very similar coin. Diablo does a circle around you. Rose does a circle around the enemy, putting a rose on them, which I think is kind of the coolest thing. But Silence, very, very powerful. I would probably put Rose ahead of Diablo, because her basic actually does AoE, where Diablo is only single target. But like I said earlier, how often are you basic attacking? Water, right here we have Lotus and Hydrogeta, however you pronounce it. Plus defense, Silence, very quick Silence, very similar characters. Hydro definitely a little bit better because of that defense bonus for classes that get bonuses from it, such as Mechanician or Berserker. Then what Incarnation? I didn't do a review video on her. I probably should. Carnation is very good in group combat, very similar to uh, Balloon Flower, but it does a bigger AoE, and it works very well with their passive erosion. But Earth just has a hard time in PvP right now. The Echo is very good, but the fairies themselves in certain PvP game modes just have a rough time. Last but not least, Dandelion, one of the coolest fairies in the game, but kind of polarizing effect. Always one side or the other. Whatever you use first, it dictates what bonus it gets. The issue here is the ecosystem itself. So you're only really ever going to have the wind bonus or the holy bonus. Getting one of the other bonuses is almost not even relevant because you kind of have to do 3-1 or full wind. And we're kind of at a point right now where you kind of have to do full wind if you're doing wind. So the coolness of her effect with how the game is progressing doesn't really exist anymore. And I'll just do C and D at the same time. The two best PvE Holy Fairies are the lowest for PvP. I put Gypso above Twins because it does have some use by extending effects. For, let's say we were doing fire, so D down here, Chestnut Rose, increases damage you do to fire weakness. Doesn't really work in PvP. Then we have Water. Viola does do good AoE, but it's small and slow, so people easily get out of it. The one down here, I forget her name sometimes. There's 31 fairies. There's too many. But she does AoE heal, but that AoE doesn't really account for much unless you're full on the heal effects. And even then, you can do better with some other effects. Like we're in water, we can have Blue Rose, Ikoria, Lavender. We have good water fairies. Earth, we have 2 Earth right here. Daisy and blanking on that name too. I need to sleep. Marigold. Daisy and Marigold. Daisy gives you the counterattack damage if they attack someone besides you. That's very cool, but it doesn't do a lot of damage, and it doesn't stop them from attacking your allies. It just does a little bit of damage. Ideally, this would be on a brawler type build, but you're going to need some high damage brawler build for someone to take any real damage from your Daisy. Marigold does do a slow, which is why it's C and not D. Very small AoE, and takes some time for it to hit. And then Earth down here, Camellia, just boom, does some damage, does some pretty low damage compared to everybody else, and it's in D tier. That's it for PvP. Let me know what you guys think down below. Till next time, guys.